What's up YouTube, Capital G here, got some pretty dope Neo-Spacian action for you guys to check out. Didn't think I'd be saying that on this channel anytime this year, but with so much support that Konami is cranking out for the archetype, I guess we gotta go ahead and we gotta give you guys some of those spicy duels. And I have to say, while I still don't really love the materials that you have to put in to E-Hero Nebula Neos, I'm not gonna lie, this card can absolutely be a fucking behemoth when you drop it under the right circumstances, especially if you summon it and your opponent has a bunch of cards on their field. Like if your opponent has a bunch of back row man, or maybe like continuous spells or traps, field spells, pendulum scales, cards that kind of just sit on the field but don't really do anything, like brilliant fusion and whatnot. This card can be absolutely magnificent. And one thing that I did discount about this card was the fact that a lot of people aren't really summoning all the monsters required to summon this guy. What they're really using is just E-Hero Prisma. That's a card that was kind of out of sight, out of mind, because people hadn't really used it since like the Glad format, so I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, Prisma works really well, and Prisma, obviously, you know, it's an E-Hero. You can summon it from your deck where the hero lives. Anyways, let's go ahead. I believe I should have two duels for you guys. And the first one, I mean, it's against a meta deck. I mean, I think that most people have a genuine amount of respect for True Draco still. This isn't the greatest opening hand a True Draco player has ever seen, because he effectively has two copies of Diagram, and those don't really work together. But I guess he has Called by the Grave if Terraforming gets Ash, which unfortunately it doesn't. Pot of Egg 9 is going to get him another Terraforming. Oh my god, this hand's terrible. He summons Dynamite Knuckle, and I think he activated True King's Heritage, and then drew, I believe, another Heritage, and then just activated Disciple. So it's an okay opening, not the greatest opening, although he should be able to get another trap card with Dynamite Knuckle as it activates off the Ortho Scorpio. Now the interesting thing is, as I said before, Neo-Spacians is a deck that actually punishes your opponent for having more cards on the field than maybe they need. So the fact that he added True Draco Apocalypse on the field means that, yeah, his opponent could just draw more cards off of the cards that he has on the field, and none of these cards really do anything right now. So Brilliant Fusion, and this is really nice. You guys don't usually see this, but he's going to drop Neos in the graveyard, and then he's going to use Lazuli to add Neos to his hand. So that's a nice little way of, you know, getting a nice little effect. And now he's going to summon everything, or he's going to take everything, he's going to convert that into Saryuja Skull Dread. He's going to Rhoda for Prisma, the monster that is super important. Now Prisma should be able to activate its effect. It's going to drop Neos in the graveyard, and this is where things are going to get spicy. He's going to use that Contact Gate. This is the card that banishes two Neo-Spacians with different names from your graveyard, and then let you special summon two different Neo-Spacians. So that's essentially how he's going to get three monsters on the field. And now he's able to Contact Fuse, and look at this. He only has three cards in his hand. Just keep that in mind. Just three cards, and Nebula Neos is just, oh my god, look at this hand size. He just drew 5 fucking cards. I mean, that is utterly ridiculous, because his opponent has so many cards on the field. He even went ahead and he turned off the True Draco Apocalypse so his opponent couldn't use it, just to make sure that it wasn't going to be any type of threat or anything like that, because, you know, it could he could use it or something like that. So he's going into battle phase, can't kill Dynamite Knuckle the first time because of the diagram, and then that second effect actually put in some work, the effect where you end up losing the Nebula Neos, but at the expense of your opponent's entire board, basically. So, I mean, both players are kind of wiped clean, but look who still has all the resources. Look who still has 6 cards in their hand. This is not a position you want to be in if you're playing True Draco. Now, he is going to get a nice top deck in the Majesty's Maiden. Problem is, Majesty's Maiden isn't, like, it's basically the only card he has, and even though it's going to activate, I think he's going to grab Ignis Heat. You can't summon Ignis Heat because you ain't got nothing on the board to do anything with. You don't have any True Draco traps to tribute, so at this point, he's just going, and he's got to give you that work with the Honest Neos, and I believe he actually, yeah, he gets wrecked by a very just weird field, right? Like, you have Prisma, Neos, and then an Ortho Scorpio, but yeah, he definitely did that, and actually, he could have used Wrath of Neos, but that wouldn't have, I don't think that would have been as good, because I think just getting the raw damage with Honest Neos made a little bit more sense. So True Draco got absolutely rolled. This second one is going to be against PKs, the Phantom Knights, and PKs, unfortunately, are going to invest a lot of cards to the board. Anytime you have Card of Demise, you pretty much have to do that. So that's just another way of getting wrecked by Nebula Neos. If you're playing like a back row deck, like imagine right now if you just summon Nebula Neos into this back row. I mean, if your opponent opponent, well, I think he has Fog Blade. Okay, Fog Blade might wreck it, but if your opponent doesn't have that Fog Blade, man, if they just go set 5 and none of those cards are reactive, sometimes Sky Strikers will do that. You're talking about drawing 6 cards, which is ridiculous. How are you going to lose when you draw 6 cards? So he's going to activate Covert Contact, get his deck going. Then he goes for a Hero Lives to get Prisma out of his deck. At the same time, he got a token, so he can summon a Sky Striker monster if he so chooses. I believe he has double Prisma on field. I think he's setting his graveyard up. Now the thing is, he has Red Reboot, so it doesn't matter what trap his opponent tries to use here, he should be able to stop it. Now I don't agree with using that second card of Demise there. I think it really didn't benefit him, and I believe he's going for Isolde. He's going to go for Fog Blade, and this is where it's going to get spicy. Fog Blade gets reset. Since he doesn't have anything else open, he cannot set anything, and you're seeing right here as he did summon off of Miracle Contact, which still a pretty good card for this deck specifically. He's going to be able to draw 5 cards, and since his opponent can't use any traps, he's probably going to get OTK. Let's see. Oh my goodness, did he just summon the Flare Neos? Who was using these cards in 2018? That is a spicy OTK, and he still had Pot of Desires. He still had, reinforcements of the army to probably get him maybe a Dark Warrior that he could use a Lord Darkness with. So I don't think that there was any way that his opponent was going to survive this turn. Not with a 3,000 attack Nebula Neos and a 500 attack Flare Neos. Now these are 2 different variants, but I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys just for you who are interested in seeing the deck. Okay, so this is the first version of Neo-Spacians. This was actually from the second duel against the Phantom Knights, and this version actually looks pretty decent, although there's a couple of things I don't necessarily love, like running Tour Lord Darkness when, as far as I can tell, you only have 3 targets in the deck, which is your Dark Panthers, and you don't want to banish all your copies of Dark Panther. That seems like that might be a little much. I don't even know if this build needs Allure at all. I think I love Red Reboot in this deck. It just makes so much sense. Red Reboot is stupidly good in Neo-Spacians because with Nebula Neos, not only does it allow you, if you're playing against like Altergeist or Paleo or really any deck that plays powerful trap cards, it allows you to just summon into a plethora of back row. Your opponent can have 4 or 5 back row cards. You activate Red Reboot, you shut them down. Also, you force them to put another card on the field. So if you're playing against like Trickstar and they already have, I don't know, the field spell like Light Stage, and then they just go for Reincarnation, you set the Reincarnation, you force them to get another copy and set it on the field. What that does is that means that when you summon Nebula Neos, there's another card on their field, so you're going to draw, and it doesn't matter that they got an additional card because in the end phase, Nebula Neos is going to banish everything anyway, so they kind of lose that resource permanently. I think that a card like Call by the Great is probably necessary because if you look in this build, there's like Upstart. There's so many Ash targets, whether it be Hero Lives, you don't want to pay 4,000 life points for nothing, Pot of Desires, Hand Destruction, Rhoda, Upstart Goblin. There are so many important cards that you need to resolve, especially Covert Contact. This is like Destiny Draw on crack, basically. If you have no monsters, which a few of these cards actually require him to have no monsters, like the Hornet Drones, Hero Lives, Covert Contact, if I can find it again. Yeah, Covert Contact, you send a Neo-Spacian from your hand and your deck to your graveyard, then you draw 2 cards. So this basically can like almost set up Miracle Contact turn 1. If you have Miracle Contact and you have like, if you open with, I don't know, Covert Contact, Miracle Contact, a Neo-Spacian, and Prisma, although now that I say that, that's a lot, you will be able to summon your Nebula Neos. Let me show you guys the second build really quickly before I end up making this too long. So the second build is definitely different. For the most part with these Neo-Spacian decks, you see kind of like the same monsters. You see, you know, some Dark Panthers, Grand Mole, like Hummingbird, and your typical Aqua Dolphin. Like, you're going to see the same monsters, obviously the regular Neos. This one has Elemental, Honest Neos. I think Prisma is basically a staple in this deck. I think the Predaplane engine could definitely work because you saw with Brilliant Fusion, you get to send Lazuli to the graveyard, and then, where the freak is Lazuli? Oh, okay, there it is. I was like, where is Lazuli anyways? You get to send Lazuli to the graveyard, and then you actually get your Neos added to your hand. That's really good, and it also gives you an additional normal summon, so you can drop double Prisma, or you can actually use something like Grand Mole. You can use it for the utility effect. Now, in this version, I think there's a bunch of like clutter in here that doesn't need to be in here, like Oversoul, I mean treasure map. No, this isn't treasure map. I'm sorry. This is ancient rules. All it does is just summon a level 5 or higher normal monster from your hand. Like in Blue Eyes, people used to mess around with this card a long time ago, but you really don't need that for Neo. You're not really summoning Neos that often, except for like you're really just using Prisma to be Neos. And even if you do need to summon Neos, like just go for Sayuja Scoldred. Don't play dedicated cards just for that one purpose. I really don't feel like it's worth it. Even something like Wrath of Neos isn't really all that good. Like if this card was a quick play, maybe, because it requires you to take your Neos, shuffle it back into your deck, and then you basically Judgment Dragon your opponent's out of the field. If it was a quick play, yeah, that'd be kind of nice, but I think the point of this deck is really to summon Nebula Neos, just wreck your opponent with that card, and then kind of have enough resources to where even mediocre like hands can just win you the duel because your opponent doesn't really have much left in their tank. That's why I think Red Reboot is such a strong card, and it probably should be in most of these variants.